Hey, it's Jonathan here, and one thing I wanted to talk about today was that's a little different with land than it is in houses. Is don't try to force a deal just because you have a contract. Be willing to let things go. In houses, right? When you get that contract, you want to make sure that it follows through. It's harder to get a contract with a house just because there's so much competition out there. A lot of people going for it, and in that, there's a lot less margin. So, because of that, when you get one, you want to just hang on to it. Well, what's going to happen in land is that when you start making offers on different properties, some of them are going to come back that they're just really not that good. And the reason people are willing to sell it for next to nothing is because of that. So, for example, let's just break it down. One thing to look at is the size and shape of a property. Now, that may seem obvious, right? It's like, well, I don't want this little tiny thing. But sometimes what people do is they make a mistake and they look at only the total size and they say, well, that's a great deal. Well, I've come across properties that are basically useless because of their size and shape. So, one example that I had was an acre and a half right next to a highway in a city. Sounds great, right? We're in a major city. We're not a major city, but we're in a city. It's next to a highway. It's an acre and a half. This thing's got to be very valuable, right? Seems like a gold mine. But that property was over 1 mile long. No, I'm not joking. Over 6,500 feet, and it was only 10 feet wide. So it wasn't that great, right? Now, that fact alone may not stop it from being useless, right? If you could do a billboard or cell phone tower lease or something like that, uh, it could be a great buy. But the fact is that other properties, the vast majority of them, are going to be much better to begin with. They're going to not have these issues. So it's really not worth fooling around and trying to make a deal happen with a property like this. You're just wasting your time. Could you make some money? Sure. Could you make some decent money? Maybe, probably not. But it's again, your time is worth something. So why go down that road? Because that contract that you have on that piece of property, it's not like a house. It's not like, oh man, I've got this contract. I need to follow through with this because I don't know when the next one's coming. If you keep following the system, you're going to have contract coming in all the time. And so because of that, you can just let these ones go right out the door. It's not even worth dealing with. I mean, we've had other properties that are basically these little tiny triangles. It doesn't even really make any sense. It's like 6 feet on each side, and they're surrounded by some other lot. And that's just completely worthless. And the only reason it even exists is that because at some point along the line, somebody that had the deed to that larger property did some weird legal document and cut out this, you know, tiny little section that means nothing. So the bottom line with these properties like this, just use common sense. Again, it goes back to what we've talked about before. If you can't think of a legitimate use for the property with those given dimensions and that doesn't require a lot of work on your part, just move on. Say, you know what, this isn't worth my time. This isn't worth my effort. Because what's going to happen is you're going to spend 10 times as much time trying to make that deal come together and trying to make something worthwhile come out of it when you could have just been working on other mailings, other deals, and then because of that, had more contracts in your pipeline that were better. So don't be afraid to just say goodbye, move on, and get better deals.